Welcome everybody, this is Jason, and the name of this workshop is It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's just a very basic entry-level workshop for creating neighborhood objects. So I'm going to get started. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create a new neighborhood object from scratch, and that's fairly straightforward. So we need to have SimPE open. We go to the Object Workshop tab, click on the Start button, and go to Other, Neighborhood, and let's go with Stone because those are the easiest. I'm just going to grab this first one called Beach Boulder. I don't need anything fancy, it's just a regular object with one subset, so we're going to go Next. In the clone settings, we don't really need to modify anything. Click Next. And the description doesn't matter here because this 7.5.69 and 7.7.69, they don't do the description really well. I will show you a bit more about that as we go. Check Finish. And here we need to rename the scene graph. So I'm just going to go Test NH Gorilla. Let's go Update. Okay. And where'd we go? Neighborhood Workshop. Let's call this Neighborhood Gorilla. Save. Then let's switch over to the plugin view. And if we look back at the PowerPoint, it says click Start. Then we go to Other Neighborhood. We select an object, in this case just a beach boulder. The description isn't 100% necessary. I'll show you why a little bit later. And then finish it as you would a build and buy object. Okay, so we got that done. Now let's mess with the new object. First, we go to the GMDC. And as you can see, there's only one subset, so we don't even need to rename it. So let's go Import. And if you're following along at home, I left this in the resources thread. I'm taking the Gorilla object, and we're just going to replace the subset that's already there. Just like that. Do a quick preview. Doesn't look perfect, but it's fine. Moving along, go to the TXTR. And we see this rocky texture. Let's right click on that, build DXT, and grab the JPEG that says Gorilla. Change the format to DXT3 and build. Yes, if you're not using it, I forget because 75.69 and 77.69, they do it automatically, but yes, if you're using a different version, take your sharpen to none. Okay, so then we commit and save. And then, so we've done the GMDC, we've done the TXTR. So if the object looks too shiny in the GMDC's preview window, lower the specularity in the TXMT categorized properties tab. That happens sometimes, but because this is I selected the boulder because they usually don't have really high specularity. Sometimes if you're cloning a regular object like a vase or sometimes the statues, they're really shiny, but I don't believe that to be the case here. Let's double check because it's kind of a high poly model. The specularity looks okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's just I will show you just in case. So if we scroll down to std mat col, or no, I'm sorry, std mat diff coefficient, it's kind of high, but then the emissive coefficient, which is like, I guess you would consider it the outer and inner glow, the emissive is 0. So we're fine. So now, this is especially important if you're using one of the newer versions of SimPE. We go to the text list, the str. We click that in the resource tree, and we can see that this is empty here. This is the description of your neighborhood object. So I'm going to add, and then we need to add a description. Test nh gorilla. Click on commit, and let's save. Okay, so we've got the first one done. That is all we need to do. So we've now created a neighborhood object from scratch. If that's as far as you're going, if you want to keep it basic, then yeah, there's that is how to create a basic neighborhood object. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper on this one. So the XNGB and why it's special. The XNGB, that's the neighborhood object XML, is a unique XML resource that only neighborhood objects have. It controls where an object can be placed and how it's grouped in the neighborhood catalog. There are quite a few properties, but we're going to focus on these. So the first one is GUID. That's globally unique identifier. That's the value that, okay, it sets this one apart. Okay, this object is unique. It doesn't replace one of the Maxis ones. Usually when you clone a neighborhood object, it's going to generate its own. Placement surface. This determines where an object can be placed. Accepted values are 0 for land only, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 for water only, and 2 for water and land. Allowed in lot. This determines whether an object can be placed inside a lot. So 0 is false, 1 is true. And then allowed on road. Basically the same deal. 0 is false, 1 is true. Remove on lot plot. So when you, this is a bit tougher to explain. It overrides, it does two things. It overrides allowed in lot and allowed on road values. And when you place an object, or when you place a lot on a space that is already occupied by a neighborhood object, it will, if this value is 0, it will remove any neighborhood objects in that space. But if you leave it as 1, it will keep the neighborhood objects that are already there. Then sort determines which subcategory of neighborhood objects the object is sorted into. The accepted values are flora, stone, landmark, effects, or misc. This will come into play when we're adding thumbnails. I will get to that later. The thumbnail group ID and thumbnail instance ID, these are the values that the game uses to see a neighborhood object's thumbnails, if that's applicable. Let's hop over to the XNGB and mess with it a little bit. Okay, that's the GID. That's what makes it unique. And then showing catalog, that's not really important. This is the material. Placement on surface. That's what I was looking for. So 0, 2, water and land. So just going to leave that as is. Allowed in lot, 0, 1. We're just going to leave that as is. Remove on lot plot. No, we don't want it to be removed when we place a lot on top of it. Allowed in road. I want to edit that one. I'm going to change that to 0, 1. And then sort, for now, we'll leave it as stone. And these last two I don't want to mess with. We will dive into that a little bit more when we're doing thumbnails. Yes, 1 is true. Okay. So now we're done with the basic object. Now we're going to clone an existing object. This is the one that Criquette fixed. And we're just going to make it a two-phase object. So by that, it has different materials for day and night. That's all that means. So we go to Object Workshop, and we're going to open this template here. Next, and just finish, because the SimPE, it doesn't overwrite the descriptions correctly. So here I'm going to call this test NH moon. And we update that. And we're just going to name the file test NH moon. Hop back to the plugin view, and we'll start with the GMDC. So in this case, Criquette, to make a cloning template, added all of these groups. There's repeat, rail, bits, roof, and then Windows day and Windows night. I mean, it's cool if you have other subsets of the object that are just matte that don't need to change depending on whether it's day or night. You can use those subsets to add this, but in this case I don't need those, so we're just going to delete everything except Windows day and Windows night in the groups tab. Now we hop back over to the main tab, click the import button, we grab the moon, and first we will replace the day subset, just like that. And then we will do the same thing. We will grab the moon, replace the night subset. So now you should have two, if you go back to the groups tab, you should now have two different subsets with the same phase count. See, when we hit preview, it's going to be this big round thing here. Yes. Yes, they're both the same subset. So we hop over here to the TXCR, and once again, we have 5 textures. We don't need those. We only need, we've got repeat surface, and we've got repeat surface night. Those are the ones that we'll be using here. So we just delete. We select the other 3 in the resource list, and then we right click to delete those in the drop down. Then we save. We select the one that says repeat surface, build DXT, and we, in the resource thread, or in the resource post, we've got 2 different textures, moon day and moon. So this is a day texture. We're going to grab the rockier one that says moon day. Leave the SimPE settings, or the DXT settings as is. Build that like so, and commit. Then we hop down to the night texture, and we just use the night texture provided. Build. Commit. Okay, and then let's clean up the SHPE a little bit. So we know that we have in the GMND, or I'm sorry, the GMDC, we've eliminated all of the subsets except the ones that are underscore day and underscore night. So we can remove these from the SHPE. Nothing bad will happen. Okay, just like that. Then we go to the TXMT, and once again we're eliminating everything except Windows Day and Windows Night. Okay, so we have cleaned up the object quite a bit. To reinforce it with the PowerPoint, essentially we grab the cloning template, we clone, we replace both of the subsets, we replace the TXTR, we delete the additional lines in the SHPE, and now in the TXMT we need to do something a little different. So we've eliminated all of the ones except day and night. So now we need to come up to standard material base texture name. We copy everything after the exclamation point. We just highlight it like so and Control C. And we scroll down. There's a new material called a new category called text material. So we grab that property there. And we just delete all of the text in the value. And we paste that name there and commit. Then let's go down to the night. The same thing. We grab everything behind the exclamation point, like so. Then we scroll down to text material, delete everything that's already in the box, and we just paste that new texture name there. Commit. And we save. Since we didn't clone any resources, we're not going to fix integrity, but let's have a look at that in the scene graph just to see what's happening. So go Tools, Object Tools, Scene Grapher. So see, by eliminating all of those extra TXMT, we just got this nice clean object. Everything hooks up nicely. Okay, moving along. So we've created a regular old neighborhood object from scratch, and we've created a two-phase object using Criquette's cloning template. So now we're moving on to this bit. We're adding thumbnails to the neighborhood objects. So let's save this one, and let's go back to the gorilla for a minute. Okay. So for the gorilla, just select any resource, and then we're going to right-click the resource tree and add. And then in this box in the lower right-hand corner, we're going to select all files from the drop-down. Now, do we see the gorilla thumbnail? Okay, we grab the gorilla thumbnail, and we can see that it added it as a user-defined resource. So we select that resource in the resource tree, hop over to the resource list, and then go to the resource tab. And then we scroll down till we find JPEG, TGA, PNG image. Just like that. And it should be this group value. Or I'm sorry, this type value. So now we go Tools, Object Tools, Hash Generator, and let me get a notepad. We're going to need a notepad so that we can copy these values. We'll grab the CRC24, just like that. We paste the CRC24 in the instance and copy it to the notepad. Then, where'd it go? We switch the radio dial to CRC32. We grab the value that it generates there. We can close that up. Paste that in group. Just like that. Okay. Switch back to the plugin view. And if we select that resource, we should now see the gorilla thumb looks correct. Let's give that a quick save, and then let's hop up to, what's that? Yeah, if you're, I think I forgot to mention, if you're creating your own thumbnails, the size needs to be 128 by 128 pixels. Okay, so now we hop over to the XNGB. Let's go all the way down to sort. So this is important. This I struggled to figure out at first. Only effects type objects can have a neighborhood thumbnail. So in order for this thumbnail to show up, we first need to change this to effects. Yeah, I did not get it. I had to have Nupkey explain it to me. So then we take the group ID, that's this higher value here, the one that we generated in CRC32, and we paste that just like that. So then the first one that we generated, group, we move down to thumbnail instance ID, and we paste that like that. So you should have the higher value and then the lower value. Commit. And save. Now, let's jump back to the moon. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. Click anywhere, and then click on the resource list and add. Go to all files in the drop-down. Now let's select the moon thumbnail. Grab the newly created resource. Select it in the resource list. Hop over to the resource tab, and we select the correct type. That's JPEG, TGA, PNG. It needs to match this value. Then hash generator. We take the low range value, that's CRC24, and we paste it over instance. And I'm going to replace that in the notepad. And then we switch the radio dial to CRC32, copy that value, and we paste that over group. And we don't need that open anymore. Okay. Give that a quick save and switch over to plugin view. And you should see the moon thumbnail just like that. Then once again to the XNGB. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, there it is. Okay, XNGB, we changed that from MISC to effects. So we need the group value, that's the higher number. We paste that over thumbnail group ID. Then we go to instance. We copy that. And we paste that value over. Adding thumbnails. So to review, we go to the XNGB, we change the sort property to effects. Then we right click anywhere in the resource list. We add, we select add in the SymPE dropdown, and then in the pop-up window, we change the file type to all files, and we then select the thumbnail. We hop over to the resource tab, change the group type to JPEG/TGA/PNG image, which is this value here. And then we go to the hash generator. We select we move the radio dial to CRC32 and replace the group value. Copy that value to Notepad. CRC24. we do the same thing, except we replace instance this time, copy that to a notepad. Then we hop back over to the plugin view, and we just paste those values in the XNGB. And that should be it. Okay, well, hang on, I finally got my HUD to load. And I've already got this little wall of the trees set up. This is actually where I took the one of the screen captures for the workshop. So then we go to Effects, and you can see it has the little thumbnails, right? So then we go Gorilla, and let's just rotate him around so he's facing the right way. And he's just, that's hilarious. Yeah, I made him this size intentionally so that he just peeks over the wall there. Let's scoot down. Yeah. Let me try to get her framed better. Yeah, there he is. He's just hanging out, peering over the wall, watching the people go by. See, it's got 2 phases. Yeah!